Hello and welcome to The Talking Point. Thank you for coming and watching. My name is Oliver Grimes. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the last episode. It was by far the most interacted with, the most liked, the most viewed video that I've ever uploaded. Which was absolutely amazing. I want to thank everyone that shared the video, that liked the video, that viewed it. Even if you disagreed with me, I just want to thank you for the support, because it was really cool going to bed that night and waking up and seeing such a big response. At least big in my terms, because I haven't really had anything on that scale of interaction with this channel yet, and it was really cool to see. It made me really happy. So I want to thank everyone for sharing. Today is a big episode. We've never done this on The Talking Point. This is the first episode that I'm ever going to have a guest. Today I'm having and he is anonymous. He has to stay anonymous just because of his rank, but he is a relatively high-ranking Republican from Arizona. And when I say ranking, that means ranking in the basically just community of Republicans. And he has a lot of insight, and in my opinion, a lot of very, very unique viewpoints, and he comes from a very unique area to give his opinion. So I have him here today. He's going to be on the phone. I'm going to bring him on in just a second, but before I do, if you would like to follow any of my social media, I'm going to put them on the screen right here, and if you would like to donate financially, you can go to patreon.com/thetalkingpoint. So without further ado, are you here?
What's up, Oliver? Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for being on the show. I'm really glad you could make it. You are the first ever guest on The Talking Point.
I'm hearing great things about it, so I'm excited.
Well, we're small right now, but I have pretty big hopes for this, so we'll see where this goes. Maybe you're on a future famous person's show.
Yeah, probably not.
All right, fair enough. So I do want to ask you, because we need to get down to oh, that's good. Okay, we need to get down to the bread and the butter. All right. What are your key takeaways from this election? Because this was and still is a very divisive election. If you're on the left, you think Biden won. If you're on the right, you think there's voter fraud, and then Trump won. What are you taking away from it?
Of course, it's like nothing we've ever seen, but I'm not as focused on what happened on Election Day. I mean, this was 9 months in the making. This was right from the start. I mean, the coronavirus was politicized from the very get-go, and essentially it was leveraged against the American people and against Trump, all leading up to that Election Day. And I could care less about what happened on Election Day. This was rigged for 9 months. Yeah,
no, I'm with you. I think that it was very evident, probably about 2 to 3 months into the coronavirus, that it became very politicized. I mean, this wasn't an issue of, is this a bad disease, or it wasn't a scientific issue, but I think it went past that and was politicized so much. And I think that's one of the key issues that might have won this election for Biden.
Very true. And in terms of on Election Day, the fact that these different news sites aren't even considering the possibility that there was fraud is why we should be so concerned about it.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think it's weird because every single news station, every single mainstream, and that's Fox included, none of them are even questioning it. And there's been multiple things that have come out. There's been tons of evidence that has come out. So many different how do I put it, fishy and really suspicious activity has been reported, yet none of the major news networks seem to care. So it kind of puts that in my mind that maybe there is something deeper to this.
I don't know about you, but I found it oddly suspicious how calm people on CNN were election night when Trump had that big lead. Chris Cuomo, Don Lemon, they all seemed oddly calm. Different than we've seen them ever before, and so that makes me a little suspicious as well.
All right. Well, no, I think that's a good point. I've never really thought about that. But again, election night, they did seem pretty cool, calm, and collected. They didn't seem like they were about to lose an election, so I didn't even think about that. I do have a question regarding the coronavirus. Do you think that the coronavirus, because it's all over the news, everyone's constantly asking, do you think that the coronavirus was one of the major issues for voters? What do you think the biggest issue was, if not the coronavirus?
I think it absolutely was the coronavirus. It certainly was for me. My vote, I was almost a one-issue voter in this election because the coronavirus is the biggest challenge right now, and it's really something that could take down our entire country and has almost been attempted to be used to create a new authoritarian control of the country.
You're saying
like
from
wearing
a
mask, it starts out small, but people control can be dangerous.
Okay, I think I see what you're saying. Are you saying more from an economic standpoint that it's kind of come close to taking down our country, or from that authoritarian sense?
In terms of economics, I mean, I've heard people say on the left that they're not going to bring this economy back until they restructure the way that America runs our economy. So they're not going to allow this economy to be brought back by keeping these lockdowns imposed.
So are you suggesting,
in terms of socialism?
So are you suggesting that this was a complete hoax of a virus,
not a complete hoax,
but it was just used? It was lucky for them, and it was utilized and used to kind of push through a new economic era, if you will.
Yeah, I think most likely the situation was just taken advantage of. But
yeah,
still, in the back of my mind, I have to think this came potentially from a lab in China just months after Donald Trump passed the most sweeping restrictions on China in the history of the United States.
Look, I'm not against it. I'm not going to push any conspiracy theories, but
that's what I'm here for.
Look, yeah, I'm not going to do anything because this is my show and I need to keep my reputation clean. I'm not going to push anything like that, but I think that's a very big talking point, especially during the beginning. I remember March and February, there were talks about, it coming out of a lab, it coming from it being a biological weapon. So this is something that has been kind of spoken about since the beginning, so I wouldn't say this is anything crazy and groundbreaking that you're putting out there.
I'm not stating that this is a fact. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, no. I think, and I think it's worthy of conversation at least. I want to move on. So, as of right now, the media has claimed that Joe Biden will be the 46th president of the United States, with Kamala Harris being his vice president. To me, being open-minded, I'm not terrified of Joe Biden. I think Joe Biden with Mitch McConnell in there is going to be pretty level. He's not going to be able to do too much. He's relatively, look, he has some very, very far left-wing viewpoints, but for the most part, he's I'd say, relatively classical liberal. My fear comes with Kamala. I think she was rated by an independent news source the most liberal senator in the entire United States. What do you think about Kamala? Do you think she is an actual threat, or is this all just fear-mongering going on?
I have to agree that, I don't think Biden will do too much damage. It could just be another, I disagree with many of the things that happened during the Obama administration, but it's not as if this country really fell apart. But some of the things that Kamala has, and they're open secrets, she's stated that she wants to do many of these crazy things, supporting the Green New Deal,
yes.
But she's not fully condemned socialism, and things like ending fracking and are just very dangerous to our country at this point. And she's been introduced on stage at the rallies as President Kamala Harris, so there's another open secret that she's next in line. And her podcast is called Next in Line.
And look, it's funny because I remember, I think it was Donald Trump or one of the top Republicans said that Joe Biden is the Trojan horse for socialism. I've heard this quote a lot. I think that she is hiding in the Trojan horse, if you will, if you'll go with my metaphor. I think Joe Biden really is that person pushing the way. He looks relatively innocent. Even me, a guy who's pretty well informed in politics, can admit, yeah, he's pretty much a classical liberal. He won't do too much damage. But then, I mean, this guy is obviously senile. He's obviously not doing too well mentally. Give it a year or two. I don't know if he's still going to be around. I mean, I'm not, God forbid anyone dies, because that's not what I want, especially, a political adversary. I would never call for the death of anyone that I disagree with politically. But what I'm saying is he is, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, 78, 77?
I think that's right.
If he falls over and dies, we have a socialist. I mean, not a full-blown, Marxist, but somebody who's buddied up to that ideology before.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd give it 50-50 or better that he doesn't make it through the 4 years in terms of at least serving, maybe not dying, but at least serving as an effective leader.
Yeah, no, Kamala's definitely my biggest issue with this win from the Biden campaign. I think that with her in as president, we will see sweeping restrictions on companies. We'll see absolute power taken from the legislative branch of government. I think they're going to try to pack the courts. They might try to end the filibuster. Some scary, scary things that honestly could pose a very, very big threat to our democracy. And that's something that genuinely scares me.
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely a real fear, and nothing we can do about it right now other than just standing up against those policies and not cowering in fear to these.
Okay, yeah, and that's one of the things I wanted to ask you next about. As a right-wing person, I'm a right-wing person, you're a right-wing person. As a right-wing person, if Trump leaves in January, what should the right wing's next move be? I mean, obviously, I don't want to see the right wing turn into militia groups going out shooting people in the streets or going out and looting and rioting like we've seen the left has done for the past 4 years. And I don't think it will. But what I'm saying is, what do you think the right wing should do over the course of the next 4 years if Joe Biden is elected president?
We need to start to equal the left's presence in popular culture. I think people need to stop cowering in fear and come out as Trump supporters or Republicans, essentially online. Copy those, not copy, but match those posts by your liberal friends on Instagram every day.
Yeah.
Come out and show your support in a respectful way. Cowering in fear just emboldens them to make more posts to get more divisive.
Would you say there is just, would you say there is a good case to be made for showing up physically? I mean, protesting, showing up actually, physically, not online. Having the right wing assemble in different groups, kind of like we've seen Antifa and BLM. I'm not saying we take their strategy of going about, political issues, because
I don't know if this election proved anything. Intimidation is effective.
Look, of course, I think intimidation is effective, but I'm asking you, is intimidation the answer? I hope you say no. I hope it's not. I don't know.
Of course not. I was being somewhat facetious with that, but I think physical presence is good. I think one of the things was the Trump rallies in those caravans of cars driving around. That gave me hope before the election. We didn't quite make it, but I think the right's next move is to set up Trump for 4 years from now. I think his rallies need to continue, and whether it's him or someone else, he has the enthusiasm of the Republican Party right now. He needs to keep it going, at least for now.
So you're saying Trump in 4 years. In 2024, if Trump loses now, you're saying you would like to see Trump run again in 2024?
Can't think of anyone who's going to have more enthusiasm behind him from the Republican Party.
And look, I'm with you. I do disagree with you when you say the Republican Party. I do, because we're seeing right now the Republican Party, the top people in the Republican Party, I should specify, are leaving Trump behind. They are. So the senators, the governors, everyone, they're leaving him behind. They're leaving, they're ditching, they're jumping ship. Because what we know is that the United States is controlled by something called the establishment. Okay, and the establishment likes being established, right? So if Trump is this non-establishment guy, I think that a lot of the Republicans have kind of jumped ship already. So, but I would agree with you that a lot of people, the main population of people, of Republican voters, do have a lot of enthusiasm for Trump. I just don't think the government officials that are on the right have a lot of enthusiasm for him.
And yeah, you're definitely right about the establishment not wanting him to. I even think they wanted him to get elected this time. Certainly not the first time, and certainly not again in 4 years. I mean, you look at Mitt Romney, you look at even Fox News. They all abandoned him. That's part of why we lost this election. It's because cower to their donors, because Trump comes in and he upsets the establishment, and people on both sides get upset about it. And that's a shame that people don't recognize that across the country.
And look, one of my episodes coming up, I'm talking about. I'm not going to spoil it right now, but it has something to do with corruption in government and money, and how money can really change a lot of things when it comes to policy and with who stays in power and stuff like that. And it's scary. It definitely is. We are going to take a very short break, and when we are back from the break, more questions for him. All right, we're back from the break. Hopefully that wasn't too long. Back with you, sir. We want to ask you a couple more questions. My first question back. What, in your opinion, so far, is the biggest thing that you think Trump has done? If not one, what are a couple of the biggest things that you think President Trump has done in the past 4 years? I think that he's done some good. I think he's done some bad. He's not perfect. But I want to hear from you. What do you think some of those things were?
Oh, I hope you mean besides fucking Stormy Daniels.
Yeah. Besides that, what are some of the what are some of the better things?
A distant second to that would I think probably his biggest area of accomplishment has to be on the foreign policy side. Imposing tariffs on China, kind of dissolving conflicts with North Korea and Russia. Just kind of standing up for the United States in a variety of ways throughout his entire presidency, and really being unapologetic for it.
Yeah, no, I think foreign policy is one of the main reasons why why I really like Donald Trump. I think foreign policy behind our economy is the second biggest issue for me. Again, I don't like being in the Middle East. I don't like that. I think he did great things with North Korea. No president has ever spoken to the leader of North Korea. I think other than maybe Kim Il-sung way back when. But
I mean, and he showed growth as well. He went from Little Rocket Man to crossing the demilitarized zone with him.
Yeah, no, that was big. He crossed the DMZ, which was absolutely unprecedented and historic for a president of the United States to do that. It was fantastic to see. I don't think any other president could have done it. And while, right now our relations might not be perfect, of course it's not easy working with someone like Kim Jong-un. I think he has done great things on that side of it and negotiating. I think a lot of people mocked him. They said, "Oh yeah, you're really buddy with Kim Jong-un." But you have to be buddy-buddy with him to get any type of progress. He's not going to make any progress if he comes in insulting Kim Jong-un, telling him how bad of a person he is. It's not going to change anything. And I think that was fantastic from Donald Trump. Anything else?
But yeah, my second would be the economy. Just the job growth and the low unemployment rates. Especially for Black and Hispanic communities. He put a focus on that kind of in the background. He didn't highlight it here until the election, but he certainly did things to really strengthen all parts of the economy. And economic growth helps. Economic growth overall really helps people with low incomes, regardless of race. But it certainly does help, the African American and Hispanic communities, like he did.
Yeah.
And then the third thing that I find really important is not as much an accomplishment, just the general sense of him being in office, was the war on political correctness and censorship of speech.
Yes.
And he fought that fight to the end, and it's something that's so important. If you've ever read the book 1984, it starts with language. That's how democracies go to dictatorships.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think that if you were going to highlight one part of Donald Trump, one element, you could sum him up in one phrase. What I would say is that he's unpolitically correct. He's not politically correct. And that's what he touted. He's touted that since 2015, 2016, when he first entered the race. He said that. He said, I don't care what people think. I'm not going to take a knee to the mob. I don't care how many people come after me. I don't care how many people yell at me. I don't care how many people try to cancel me. I don't care. And he said that, and he stood up for so many people, and I'm with him. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of being threatened of being canceled if I say something wrong.
It's a man who's not afraid of saying you're wrong to somebody.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think that is one of the biggest things. Moving on from this, what a lot of people are talking about is, how would I say this? I would say the cannibalism of the left. You have the extremely far left, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the neo-Marxists, the really hardcore socialists, the people that want to tear down the whole system and start fresh. And then you have Joe Biden, possibly our future president, who's pretty conservative in policy, I would say. Not conservative meaning right-wing, but pretty, classical liberal. Not as far left as them. He's more of a centrist. What do you think is going to happen with the state of the left wing in the next 4 to 10 to 15 years, somewhere in that range? How do you think the left is going to survive if it doesn't cannibalize itself?
Well, they can play dirty like they have been, and in big tech and media is so strong that people will follow.
Yeah.
If you lie to them, I mean. If you check the president's Twitter lately, every single tweet is being censored. And I mean, the left was happy for one day, right? They got their one day of happiness, and then immediately they're calling for Joe Biden to be held accountable, and they're mad at him already. I mean, they can never be happy. The few sad about the election just find solace in that you can actually be a happy person, unlike many people on the left. They're never going to be satisfied.
No, that's what it is. It's the way I said it is, if Trump won the election, I think what you're going to see is a lot of rioting. You're going to see a lot of looting up front, right? Because people are just mad. Because these people are irrational. But if Joe Biden wins, there won't be as much rioting. And the way I kind of described this is I said it's kind of like giving a little 3-year-old. So it's basically, this is the way I said. If you have a 3-year-old who's constantly crying, and wants a cookie, right? They're screaming and flailing their arms. I want a cookie, I want a cookie, I want a cookie. That's kind of with Trump. They're making these requests. They're yelling at him. They hate him. They're yelling. And when they get Joe Biden elected as president, that's giving the cookie. So you're giving this 3-year-old a cookie.
Requesting a cookie is a valid thing to protest over.
But what I'm saying is, if you can give the 3-year-old the cookie, but what happens when the cookie disappears? They're going to want another one. So what happens when Joe Biden, when his 4 years are up? There might not be a lot of rioting and looting in the next 4 years, but what happens when that presidency ends? Okay? The same people who are so unsatisfied and so unpatriotic, and the same people that hate this country so much, are going to rise up again, and it's not going to change. It might seem like it changed because the unrest might be quelled a little bit, but I don't think these people are going anywhere, and I think if anything they're going to get stronger, more established, and honestly a much bigger threat than they are right now.
Well, that's a good point, and I actually didn't know that Stacey Abrams was only 3 years old because someone has been giving her quite a few cookies.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Moving on. Dr. Anthony Fauci. Has he done a good job with the coronavirus?
I actually think he's done pretty terrible on all accounts. I think he's been very reckless and has actually caused a lot of harm to the country.
Really? And what would you back that in?
Well, I think, this excuse that he's just a doctor and he's just telling the medical information is really giving him a free pass. He knows exactly how much power he has and how much his words are being taken into account through media and through everything. And he's really done a great job of fear-mongering, but not a great job of really stating the facts and what actually should be done. He just, on all levels, he supported more panic. He really has. He's never calmed the nation at all. And,
sure.
He should not get a free pass just because he's a doctor. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Sure. I think this is one of the main things we disagree on because, a lot of people on the right have been very critical of Dr. Fauci. I honestly disagree. He's a person. He's a human being. I think that, I wouldn't say that he's been a fearmonger. I'd say he's been pretty realistic. And I get that that's not the popular talking point on the right. And he can be, this kind of dummy that people like to hit. But I think that, he's been relatively realistic with the coronavirus. I mean, you said he was fear-mongering, but fear-mongering is what everyone was doing back in, March and February. I've told this story multiple times to a bunch of different people, but I remember back in March at the very at the very peak in my mind of the coronavirus, not in terms of cases or anything, but of fear, the peak of the fear of COVID when it first got to the U.S. and started spreading. I remember going to Costco, right? Going to Costco to get toilet paper because everyone was hoarding toilet paper. And my family said, go to Costco, get us toilet paper because if everything goes south, we're going to need it. So I go to Costco, not expecting too much, and it was an absolute, it was terrifying. To be completely honest with you, it might not, sound terrifying. It was horrific to see. It reminded me of the intro scene to World War Z. If you've ever seen it, there's a scene in this zombie movie of everyone in this grocery store they're basically turning into animals or cavemen. It's really like everyone's going back to their roots. Everyone was freaking out. They were panicking. They didn't care. People were yelling at each other. They're pushing people. They're trying to get stuff for their family because they think the world's about to come to an end. Look, I understand your disagreement with Dr. Fauci for, apparently being a fearmonger, but I think he had all the right to be. I mean, our country was terrified.
I'm just waiting till our selfless and humble Anthony Fauci cashes in on a $10 million book deal in about 2 years. I think he's been pretty selfish and he's hogged the limelight a little bit. I mean, there was another doctor who was the same rank as him, Deborah Birx, and she gets no respect from the media.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's because they're sexist and because she's a woman, but that could be a conclusion.
Look, I think the two doctors, it was very interesting to see them and how the left used them as pawns. Look, agree with them or not, I think it was really interesting. And the left does this a lot. What they did with Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx was really interesting. They used them as tools. So when Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx said something that they liked, they put them up on this pedestal as being gods, about being all-knowing beings. Dr. Fauci said this, Dr. Birx said this, we have to abide by it. But then, when the doctors said something that they didn't agree with, they were shunned. They were pushed to the side. So, for instance, Dr. Fauci came out about 3 months ago and said, you know what, we don't actually have to put so much faith in mail-in ballots. It's actually relatively safe. It's actually completely safe to go vote in person. But guess what the left did? They cast him aside. They didn't bring it up. It was nowhere on mainstream news. No one talked about it because that's what they did to him. They used him as a tool. They used him. He was a pawn. Whenever they wanted to use him, they used him. But whenever he said something they disagreed with, he was, shushed. Shush. Go play in the corner. Don't talk to us. Don't talk. No one asked you. I think it was actually very, pretty gross to watch. All right, so the last issue in this episode that we're going to talk about that I have to ask you, I think it's very important to ask you. Obviously, the left and the right have kind of become more divided over the past 4 years. We seem to disagree more and more as the days go on. My question to you, what would you say right now is the biggest issue in the United States?
Well, I think it's young people, specifically healthy teenagers posting actually on their Instagram, Facebook accounts, kind of on a daily basis and really in a hateful and disrespectful way. A lot of times talking to people older than them. It happens to be, from what I've noticed, it happens to be more so women, young women. But, one thing I saw circulating before the election was this post. I think it went something to the effect of, I mean this in the most disrespectful way possible. If you vote for Trump, I want nothing to do with you. And, a number of other things. But it's just really hateful language that, you talk about divisive. That's as divisive as it gets.
Yeah,
and
no, yeah.
Who are these young people who really talk to established politicians, established people, talking about the country in a disrespectful way? Like, what have you accomplished? What life experience have you had?
Yeah.
What sort of leverage do you have posted on your Instagram account 2 a.m. about how terrible the United States is?
Yeah.
After you just got Eiffel Towered in the bathroom of a frat house.
Dude. No! That is a very interesting point. I didn't think you would say that as the biggest issue, but you know what? I think it's valid. I think that the propaganda that is being spread mainly from very highly established news sources and being spread to and through young people, it's highly corrosive to our society. I think that this type of propaganda that so many young people share, and most of the time what it is it's young, wealthy people, and they share it out of guilt. It's a guilt complex. They think, you know what, I'm wealthy, so that means that I'm automatically, I have to, spread this propaganda, and it creates like a victim complex in a sense. I don't know, it's weird. It's really weird, but I think it's very corrosive to our democracy and to just our society. Now, do I think that they hold the right to spread this kind of information? Of course. So it's the First Amendment. I'm not saying we have to block this speech, but what I am saying is I think it's bad, and I think it does pose a real threat. We'll see where it goes. I mean, I don't know, but yeah. So, any last comments you would like to make before we wrap this whole thing up?
Oh, just thank you so much for having me, and I'm going to get back to getting Mitt Romney's head out of Kamala Harris's asshole. All
right. With that, we are going to end this show. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. This was a fun episode. If you would like to see more with new guests, I will see what I can do. It took a little bit of convincing to get him on here, but overall, I thought it was fun. I thought it was very good, and I think it'll be highly informative for a lot of people to watch. Again, if you want to follow any of my social media accounts, I'm going to put them right here. And if you would like to donate financially, you can go to patreon.com/thetalkingpoint. Thank you so much for watching. Like this video, share it, show people, comment, please comment, interact with it. And if you did stay this long, I really do appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day, and goodbye.